Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. So maybe we will get started, but we're going to take some time to do introductions. So if more folks are jumping on, they shouldn't miss too much, but welcome. My name is Simka Horwitz. I'm co-director at Massachusetts Farm to School, and so happy to have you joining us for this exciting session today about fish sticks and sustaining the fleet. And we have some great folks sharing with us today in a real open forum format that they'll tell you more about. So several of you have probably already been joining some of the conference sessions. We hope you've been enjoying it so far. And if you are, this is your first session or you're new to Mass Farm to School, just quickly a bit about us, that we are a statewide organization that provides professional development to school staff, farmers and food producers and other stakeholders to increase local food sourcing and education at schools. We do networking and advocacy work as well. And outside of this conference, we have a number of professional development opportunities we offer throughout the year, and other ways to get involved with the farm and sea to school movement. So hope you will keep an eye out for those and join us at other points in the future. And so I think I would like to turn it over to our two amazing presenters today. We are joined by Jared Auerbach, who is the founder and CEO of Red's Best, which is a seafood company based in Boston. And Jared can tell you more about himself, but came to this work after many years working on commercial vessels in Alaska and Cape Cod, and really seeing a need for something new to help support traditional fishing communities and family fishing businesses that were really struggling for survival. And that was Red's Best, which he'll tell you more about. And we're also lucky to be joined by Doug Feeney, who's a commercial fisherman based in Chatham, Mass, and has really been instrumental in supporting a market for local and sustainable dogfish here in Massachusetts and beyond. So let me turn it over to them to share a little bit more about this session. And then I think we're not a huge group, so we can go around and do some brief introductions where people could share their name and where they are joining us from, or what their role or involvement is with Farm and Sea to School. So turn it over to Jared and Doug.
Yeah, hey everybody. Thanks for joining. So we're thinking of what to do for a session, and so Red's Best was started in 2008, and I think probably 5 or 6 years ago we sort of were at a point where our name was getting out there. We're starting to do a lot of work in the community, but there's a lot of nuance to the seafood industry, and to me that's what's cool about it. That's what's compelling. But I think that can be overwhelming to people who have, are trying to sort of be knowledgeable about a lot of topics. It's hard to understand the nuance of the seafood industry. So about 5 or 6 years ago, we started doing these open forums. We do them quarterly. We've been consistent with them. The consistency is important to us. We've been doing them virtually for the last 2 years or so, but, we just invite the whole community to our headquarters in the Boston Fish Pier, and have conversations. Sometimes we'll pick a topic, but often it's not about the topic. It's just about letting people ask questions, educating people, and really encouraging a back and forth. And it's worked out great. It's something I kind of look forward to every quarter. The first time it was like Noah's Ark. There were literally two of everybody in the community you could imagine. Or two fishermen, two scientists, to old people who are just interested, to young people, to people who are in food service, and on and on. So it was really cool. So something we enjoyed doing. The last one was particularly impactful. We were talking about the fish sticks that we've been selling. These are haddock fish sticks. And we had this fisherman, Joe Jurek, on, who's a cool guy. And, we thought to just do that again and open it up to to this crowd. And, having Doug on is really important. Doug's a great guy. He's really knowledgeable. He's a fisherman, at the core, but he's also kind of takes time just on his own time, right? That, donates his time to bettering fisheries. And, to me, that means bettering the community. I know actually for a fact, he just got off a long conference call that he was on with NOAA, who oversees all the, U.S. fisheries, that he was on all day. Again, he's not getting paid for this. He's doing it because he cares. And now we have him on here. So I was hoping, Simka, if we could sort of go around to introductions. I think it'd be helpful if everybody introduced themselves. I really want to encourage people to chime in and be part of it. I think, these are the most fun when people kind of steer the conversation into what they're interested in. And I'm excited to have, and I'll give, maybe after introductions, maybe I'll give a 5-minute sort of summary of Red's Best, just to make sure people understand what our company is and what we do. But why I'm excited to have Doug here, I think, the culmination is today we're selling these cool fish sticks using local haddock. But the ideation of this kind of started, Doug, like 6 or 7 years ago? It started with dogfish, and it started, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I'm sure you all have heard the term like underutilized fish. There's a lot, like they were calling it trash fish for a while, but this notion of like, all right, we have highly abundant fish in our local waters that don't have high demand, so they're underutilized. Like they're available, they're sustainable, but they're not being caught. And I think like the 8 years of work has led us to where we are today. And it's given us really good perspective into like what we think the future should look like. So I think I'm excited to kind of share that. But so maybe we do a Doug intro. If everybody can introduce themselves, I think that'd be helpful. And then we'll jump off from there. Is that okay, Simka? Or team?
Sounds great. Yeah, go for it, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
All right. Yeah, no problem, Jared. So I'm Doug Feeney, Chatham fisherman of 27 years now. And how I got introduced to Jared was, our way of fishing was went out and caught fish, and we came in and we unloaded it, and then we found out 5 days later what we got paid for it. And there was no fisherman involvement. And Jared sort of came to the table. We met in a living room one night, and he pitched this idea of how we could help Jared himself market these fish and promote these fish, and really tell the story of the fishermen, and really market these underutilized species. And that's, like they say, that's where it started. And it's been all downhill from there. It's been a great partnership. We've done grants together, and we've really highlighted the underutilized species, which moving forward is a very important thing to me, because instead of, I'm going to go out and eat fish, then I need cod or I need swordfish and stuff like that. These are fish that have high pressure on them, and they're not that abundant anymore. So the education aspect is very near and dear to my heart. And we have an overabundance of these underutilized species. And that's where my heart is. And I learned Jared's is too. So together with our partnership, we've really made a dent in it out of educating people and feeding people. That's my number one thing, is feeding people. So, here we are, and I'd probably say it's our 8th year together, and we're still going strong, and we don't hate each other.
Right. And we've learned a lot. I mean, I think that's what's exciting about all of this. It's like, we've learned a lot, and I hope to learn more tomorrow. And that's why these open forums are fun too. So we can, get the community's perspective, because I think keeping it open, especially at this age, to me, keeping an open mind and, just constantly rethinking assumptions is it's fun and it objectively leads to progress. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of share what we've learned and give context to like why we're doing what we're doing today. Thanks.
Great. Well, maybe I will just say folks' names and then you can do quick intro. So Denise, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Hi, my name is Denise Courtney. I'm the Nutrition Education and School Wellness Training Coordinator over at DESE. And our office works closely with Mass Farm to School and other organizations to help promote the service of local foods in schools. Thanks.
Thanks. Megan.
Hi, I'm Megan Mayer. I'm a faculty member at Framingham State University and have a research interest in farm to school and helping to just improve the connections between producers and meat producers, fishermen and women, and fruit and vegetable producers, and the connections with schools, improving the experience in school. So I'm here to listen in and learn, and also pass on some of this to my students in the classroom.
Great. Stephen? Oh, Stephen, I think you're still on mute there.
Now I'm not.
Great.
Thank you, Simca. Afternoon, all. Doug, I'm probably not very far for you. I'm in Brewster here on Cape Cod. Food policy advocate, daughter who does a farm to school program for AmeriCorps out in Washington State, and actually inspired by the seafood session yesterday, I reached out to the Cape Cod Fishermen's Alliance because I looked at menus for Nauset High School and Monomoy High School, which includes Chatham, and their lunch menus have no fish on it. And I was just flabbergasted. So I reached out, started to reach out to some people about how we can do some things about that. And I'm looking forward to this session, helping with some ideas on that.
Awesome. Michelle?
Hey everyone, my name is Michelle Doyle. I'm the meals director at a charter school in Cambridge and Somerville, Prospect Hill Academy. So I run our meals program for pre-K through 12th grade students. I have actually, I think I might have met Doug out on the docks at some point, being in Chatham, and learned about the initiative with the dogfish then. So I've been really interested in that project even long before I was the director at my school. So, similar to Stephen, we actually don't currently have any fish on our menu. It's something I'd really like to start introducing to our students. So happy to hear from all of you about what you're doing on this. Thanks.
Great. Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie Morgan. I'm the Director of Food Services for the Milton Public Schools. And I am a huge customer and a huge advocate of Red's Best. We are serving their fish sticks once or twice a month across all age levels. I think we're doing about 24 cases a menu. And I heard about it through Chicopee School, so huge shout out to them. And I think Red's Best is amazing. I love everything about their philosophy and what they're doing. We were one of their first customers of Catch of the Day, which is a great program of either pollock, hake, or haddock. And you get what you get and you enjoy what you get. And our students were eating big scrod for lunch. And then we branched out and we started serving salmon for lunch because they have a beautiful Gulf of Maine product. And it's just been a wonderful way to educate my students and my parents. And for any of you on the call, I'm happy to be a connection to schools in your area and explain to them what we do and why we do it. And we're educating our students. We had Jared out about 4 or 5 years ago. He was the most passionate person I've ever met. A big assembly to our students of why. And the big connections, why students need to understand this. And I remember they walked into the auditorium and they said, oh my God, I can smell fish, which of course they couldn't because it's far, far away from the kitchen. And Jared taught them that if you can smell fish, run for your life because that's not good fish. And the first day we served big scrod, we ran out. So it's been a wonderful program. The fish sticks are amazing. Whoever thought that's how it'd be using haddock. Our students are loving them. Our staff are loving them. The administration, the parents, it's just a wonderful program. Congratulations, you guys, for coming up with it.
Thanks, Jackie. Sophie.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sophie. I work at the Gulf of Maine Research Institute. I'll take this off so you can hear me better. As a sustainable seafood project manager, Red's Best is actually a partner of ours through our Gulf of Maine Responsibly Harvested program. Jared, I've never met you, but hi. I would point to Kyle's behind me, but you can't see her because of the screen here. We have had the privilege of working with a number of schools through our recent Farm to School grant, several of which have used the fish sticks and are just huge fans. So it's great to hear such enthusiasm in this group. And I'm excited to hear more from this conversation.
Thanks. And Sarah, I don't know if you're able to introduce yourself, but if so, you can go ahead.
Sure, I can. Hi, thank you. My name is Sarah Sieber. I work with Mass Farm to School as a program associate, and I'm just psyched to learn. I'm a huge supporter of farm to school programs in general, and I'm psyched to learn more about Jared and Doug and their work.
Great. And based in Gloucester. So
Based in Gloucester.
Awesome. We'll turn it back over to you, Jared.
Yeah. So, well, first I thought Doug, I was just gonna interview you quickly because I found that I'm not the only person who thinks that commercial fishermen are wicked cool, that everybody kind of thinks so too. So how did you start fishing?
I'm sorry, Jerry, did you just ask me a question?
Yeah, how did you get started commercial fishing or fishing in general?
How did I get started? So graduated high school, did a little bit of fishing, figured out, jeepers, what am I doing with my life? And joined the Army and spent 9 years in the Army and was stationed in Savannah, Georgia. And all I could think about was coming back here to go fishing. Yeah. And I got out in, 97, 98. And I basically ran from Savannah, Georgia, all the way back here. And it was the days of cod fishing where we were landing 20,000, 10,000 pounds of cod a day. And all of a sudden they evaporated. And that's what really led me into this underutilized species thing. And, then along you came and, the rest is.
We'll get there. What's your favorite thing for?
What's my favorite thing to fish for?
Yeah.
Giant bluefin tuna.
Yeah, me too. What's the biggest you've ever caught?
1,200 pounds.
Oh, where? You allowed to say?
Yeah, my 1,200 pounder was at the BB buoy, so it was 45 miles southeast of Chatham.
And that's rod and reel, right?
That's rod and reel. That was all manual labor.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things I think people are the most shocked to hear is how healthy. Well, now there's the show about it, but how strong our local bluefin tuna fishery is, and basically all of them are brought in either rod and reel or harpoon. There's still a harpoon bluefin season. Have you ever harpooned a bluefin, Doug?
I have, and it's if the zapper doesn't work, it's a bad day.
So how does that go down? Give us a quick explanation.
So with the stick fishery, you stand on a very long ladder that sticks out in front of the boat to make it easy. And you drive up and sneak up on the fish when they're on the surface. And you throw a harpoon in them. Now we have things called zappers that the guy up in the tower that's driving, looking at the fish, putting you over them, hits a button, and it automatically just kills the fish. Which is more humane, better for the meat and everything, but it always doesn't work. Sometimes the zapper doesn't work, and then you're fighting a fish on a hand line for, anywhere from 30 minutes to 6 hours.
So 1,200 pound bluefin tuna is the coolest thing you've ever caught. What's the weirdest thing you've ever caught?
I think the the weirdest, neatest thing that I really fell in love with is the ocean cat, the wolffish.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, when I started, back in the 90s, we're talking about, 100-pound wolffish.
Really?
And yeah, I mean, they were just enormous.
Google it. They're super gnarly.
Yeah. They're unbelievable. And their teeth, you'd never want to put your hand in there because they have massive teeth here, and inside they have another set of teeth that they crush quahogs and clams with, and they're just a gnarly fish, but they're beautiful.
Cool. Thanks. All right, I'll let other people chime in once we get through the more detailed portion. But I don't know. I've been doing this my whole career, and I'm still like a little kid when it comes to, I don't know, thinking about fishing and commercial fishermen. So, all right. So anyway, I grew up in Newton, Mass, of all places. No commercial fishermen there. Went to college. Got it in my head. I was like determined to get out. I was determined to get to Alaska. I read the book Into the Wild and was like obsessed. So through a friend kind of thing, found my way onto a commercial fishing boat for fishing for salmon up in Alaska. Did that. Got super compelled by the industry. Worked on some boats in New England as well. And then started Red's Best in 08. There's obviously a longer story there, which I'm happy to give more details on, but I've shared the story a lot. And started Red's Best doing what we do now in 2008. The long and short of like how we were able to build market share originally was we're coming into an industry with really big, really well-established companies, really impressive companies, nothing against them, but it was also right at that time, like the regulations were getting really intense, and regulations are good. That's why we have such healthy, sustainable fish stocks, but there's a cost to that regulation. We're able to build some web-based software, make us really efficient at handling small transactions, which the bigger, more well-established companies just didn't want to do. We got really efficient at that, and we're able to kind of build scale by kind of gathering up a lot of smaller boats, and we're able to build market share. Took over the fish pier in Chatham, which is sort of where Doug and I's relationship really kicked off. We'd known each other for a while before then, but that's when, it really started like, he's reliant on us. So the way the industry works, our level of supply chain, Doug or any fisherman comes in, we physically help them unload their boat. We take possession of their fish. Often they don't even know what the price of that fish is until we sell the fish. So historically, as you can imagine, there's this sort of like, tough relationship there, as you can imagine. Doug and I kind of, in our philosophy, which people have alluded to, and thank you for noticing, but like, I got into this because I admire guys like Doug. I want to have a positive impact on this cool thing that I see happen, which is like local people harvesting local fish. It's important to us to build a collaborative relationship with Doug and other fishermen. But essentially, at the end of the day, all we're doing is we're matching supply and demand. We're trying to do it more intelligently and more efficiently than anybody else, but that's what we're doing. We're matching supply and demand, right? So Doug is the supply, you are the demand. It's my job to match it, which is why this is so great. We're all on a Zoom call in the cloud or whatever. But sitting in that, this is my supply and demand curve, right? Sitting at that sort of central point, there's a lot of pressure, and we learned a lot. And what we learned generally is that often there's a misalignment of supply and demand, where like Doug lands hake and the consumer wants pollock. So the consumer or you are in a high demand, low supply scenario, price goes up. Doug is in a high supply, low demand scenario, as price goes down. I'm in the middle pulling my hair out. So generally, we're always thinking about things where we can influence flexible consumption. Then we have this other sort of more macro level thing, which is at times the things that are abundant for Doug, especially the smaller boats like Doug, who doesn't want to go 30, 40, 100 miles offshore. What's abundant in his local waters is just all low demand. So like low demand, high supply. And that's what we sort of started calling these like underutilized species. And that's where, like, I mean, Doug and I had a collaborative relationship from day one. Like when we first met, we were seeing eye to eye. But I think, Doug, if I recall, like maybe the first 3 or 4 years I was in Chatham, it was good. It was like the supply of the dogfish sort of matched the demand of the dogfish. And then as things happen, right? And I found that it always swings back and forth. Every species swings back and forth, both from a demand perspective, but also from a supply perspective. I'd love to hear more of your thoughts on that. But from my experience, like the ocean's very cyclical, right? So like one species will be in high supply and then it'll fall off, and another species will be in high supply. So the supply of individual species in the ocean's going like that. So we had a couple of good years in dogfish. And if you don't know, so dogfish had become a very important resource for the fishermen on Cape Cod, specifically in Chatham, where there's a big fleet. If you've ever been down to the fish pier, you know, it's really cool. Like the town has literally built a boardwalk above where we work. So little kids and anybody can stand on the boardwalk, look down and watch Doug in his boat unloading fish to Red's best employees on the dock. So it's really cool. It's a big fishery, a lot of boats. But 3 or 4 years in, we hit this sort of bump in the road where like the supply was doing really well and the demand, you know, wasn't keeping up with it or was falling. And in fact, like what's interesting about that, somewhat of a side note, is that we're really heavily dependent on European demand. So there were these like things way outside of my control that were affecting like the service I could provide to Doug. And that was like really disappointing, right? Like last thing I want to do is call this guy Doug, who I respect, who's now become a friend, and be like, dude, the price of dogfish is going down because the euro. Like, I don't even, you know, what does that even mean? That's a horrible conversation that you don't want to have. Trust me. So it was really cool. You know, we came together, as Doug pointed out, we got a grant. It was a big topic of discussion at this, you know, these summits years ago. The USDA helped us out, and we were able to build demand for dogfish by creating a value add, like a breaded dogfish nugget. And a lot of you guys on this call probably used it, and it was great. And it was like this big success, and we were super focused on dogfish. I'm sure almost everybody in this call has heard either me or Doug or both of us tell you how you need to be eating dogfish. But then something weird happened, right? Then like, for a lot of reasons, the supply of dogfish started going down, and we were successful. So the demand for dogfish kind of went up, and that's good. That's where it has to be. But it made me realize, Doug, again, I'm gonna be quiet and let you talk here, but like, it was really interesting, right? We were all focused on dogfish. It was like dogfish. It was us. We were like jamming it down your throat. But then we were like, all right, well, we don't need you to eat dogfish right now. We need you to eat haddock, or like last year it was skate. And it's like, what I realized is that like this concept of underutilized fish, and really like from there, the concept of like just breading fish, making a fish stick or a fish nugget, it's more of like, it's not about dogfish. It's just about sort of being flexible in our consumption, and us being in the middle, being the connector, creating items that are easy for Jackie or, you know, to consume, using whatever Doug needs. Doug and the fleet, right? Doug's representing hundreds, thousands of people right now, right? But like what they need us to eat, we can sort of package them. So that was this lesson that sounds obvious. I think all my best ideas, all the like most impactful things I've learned seem so obvious in hindsight, but like it wasn't at the time. You know, I don't think if we had a recording of a similar sort of conversation revolving dogfish, I don't think maybe I was, but I don't think I was saying like, but 3 years from now it might be haddock, but here we are. So like today it's haddock, but I really want to I think that to me, the conversation is about fish sticks, which ironically is this old school concept, right? I don't know. I grew up eating fish sticks. It's an old school concept using sort of like modern ideas, obviously modern recipes. You know, they taste a lot better than the ones from when I was a kid, at least from my recollection. So it's been this really impactful thing. It's made me think a lot about the future. I mean, most importantly, like that, I don't know everything. I just sort of like have these ideas. I have a lot of lessons learned a lot the hard way, but like, I'm really proud of where we are today. and think we're getting there in terms of creating a model, like a resilient model for the future. So Doug, that was long, but Doug, do you have anything to fill in there? I mean, that's been my experience. Any further thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's different. We've never had this before as fishermen, this collaboration and the inner workings of seeing your end of it. And we've never had the opportunity to do something with underutilized species. All it did was get shipped overseas. And, you know, we knew nothing about it. But now the level of participation and involvement of the fishermen with Red's Best, creating these products actually brings a sense of pride back to the fishermen.
Yes.
Because we're in this together. And it's near and dear to my heart that we eat with the ocean instead of just being like the mentality of, I got to go get fish. Then what do you get? Cod or swordfish or something like that. We need to provide what the ocean is providing us in abundance. That's what we need to start eating and working with the ocean, not against it, not what we want, but what the ocean is providing us. So it's just it's been a great experience so far, and it's been a tremendous success in my heart. And I just look forward to what the future brings.
I'm really glad you brought that up too, Doug. I mean, we, Red's Best definitely like hit the whole, like the farm to table movement, to call it that, like good timing for us. And that, like, that's just naturally important to us as people and as an organization. But like, I always point out to people, and maybe this is obvious to people on this call, but fishermen care where their fish is going. It's not just about the money, right? Like, you don't stumble your way into being a fish. You don't accidentally become a commercial fisherman, right? Like, you do it for a lot of reasons, but almost every fisherman I know takes a lot of pride in what they're landing, and it's important. They want to be feeding the community. I'd also point out, just from a business perspective, like collaborating with, both your customers and your producers, which frankly, the fishermen are as much as our customers as you are in our minds. But, hey, if I'm stuck in my Boston headquarters and, I blow a fuse on my winch in Chatham, 10 years of relationship building and like, respect and collaboration with the fishermen is going to help Doug take some time to fix the fuse. This is a true story, actually, but this is a real example. Like, it's just generally good business. Again, obviously in hindsight, but it's good business, collaborative. So does anybody have any thoughts or questions? Or, I mean, we can go in any direction. I think that, it's not just like, hey, eat fish sticks, they taste good and they're right at the price point. I think like having the context, I think, is what it's all about. Again, it's about creating a resilient model for the future, not just about making a dollar today. Like, there's plenty of ways to make a buck in this world. I don't think any of us are taking the easy way out right now. Like, we're in the trenches doing the hard work. All of us.
I'd like to just add one thing. With this collaboration with Red's Best, the thing that really is important to me is feeding people. And when the pandemic hit, I tried to donate thousands of pounds of mackerel, and nobody in Massachusetts would take it, which led me on a different path of doing something I'm doing. But I reached out to Rhode Island, and I ended up donating 10,000 pounds of mackerel, but I had to get it there. All I did was call Jared. They threw it on the truck, and they delivered it to Rhode Island. And I believe the 10,000 pounds of mackerel lasted one day because there's such a big immigrant community there. And that was very important to me. And that was only possible by the partnership that we have. So it's important. Feeding people, important.
Questions, thoughts, ideas, suggestions?
I have a question just sort of as a related to that comment about, it going quickly because of the demographics of who was accessing it in Rhode Island, if you guys have thoughts about, we obviously have a incredibly diverse student population in Massachusetts, and as you've been doing more work with institutions, ideas are either things that you've seen about how people are using the different products you have available to meet the different food preferences of students, or how that might be influencing what you're thinking about for any kind of future product development, or tips for some of the school nutrition folks who may not be as familiar with what other how other communities are using the fish.
Jackie, or does somebody else want to chime in there? I mean, I would just say from a supply chain perspective, I've always loved that, like, the oceans are not for the wealthy, or, the oceans produce this, our local oceans produce this like tremendous variety of seafood. And, we handle it all. So we see it all, and it feeds everybody from the fanciest restaurant in the South End to, low income neighborhoods, everything in between, every race, ethnicity, demographic, goes all over the country. That's been a really cool thing for me to see. And, this conversation to me, it's about a very important, it's like one component of this vast array of, like, again, it's like accessing demand, matching supply with demand, that y'all are very important. But I've always just liked what I've seen and how it goes everywhere. But in terms of the specific question, I don't know, Jackie or anybody want to chime in?
Our diversity in Milton, we probably have maybe 28% diversity, but it's a different thing for me. It's just children don't eat fish. So it doesn't matter where they're from or where they were born, they're not exposed to it. And I really think it's a wonderful role in a school system to educate them. And Jared, you did a great job that we need fishermen to stay in business. And, Grandpa Joe's grandson, Joe, isn't going to take over this because, things that I didn't even know that, when you just talked about the fuse, like, he's not making any money when he's fixing his fuse. Like, think about how many days a fisherman might have a boat that has engine problems. So it wasn't really about the diversity of our students. It was just really about the heartache of being a fisherman and what they all go through, and how we need to keep them all in business. And that's why we do this catch of the day. That's why we do the fish sticks. And it just happens to be a phenomenal product.
Yeah. Thank you. I will say, I think Doug and I are similar to this, bit of a tangent, but, we as a community, all of us, we have very healthy and sustainable local oceans, which is something I'm really proud of, and don't take for granted, right? To me, it's totally conceivable that we would let free markets dictate how we interact with the local oceans, right? We're free market capitalists, except with our oceans, we say, no, we're gonna make rules, and we're only gonna harvest enough, so there's always some left. I think that's really cool, but we need the next generation, right? Like, I feel like I was really young when I started this company, but now I'm often not the youngest in the room anymore, and that's a good thing. But we need fishermen, we need welders and truck drivers and mechanics. So, since we're on this call with educators and people involved in education, I want to point that out. I think on another somewhat of a tangent, open invitation to anybody who wants to come down, bring students, bring your staff. We do these open forums, which hopefully you'll participate in more often, but we also just have a total open door policy. Come visit us on the Fish Pier in Chatham, our headquarters in Boston. We have a processing facility in New Bedford too. Like, we love to show people and get people excited about, that these are cool careers you can have if you live in Massachusetts. And I don't know.
Out on the boat.
Yeah, Doug will take you fishing. Seriously.
Yep.
All the time. Some of you might have even been out with him.
Yep.
And a quick plug,
That's-
I think we actually have a couple spots left and we are doing like an organized field trip to the fish pier
yeah.
this Friday. So there may still be some spots left if folks want to register for that.
Excellent.
Doug, what did you see as unless anybody else want to jump in, or I have 100 questions I can ask Doug. I'm still a bit of just
I was going to say, I'd love to get Cape Kids down to the Chatham Fish Pier.
yeah.
Anytime. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, and we'd love to show them. It's one thing to watch from the observation deck, but like, I'll bring them in. I'll explain the supply chain and the different jobs. I mean, we employ about 100 people, and that's everything from brilliant accountants to brilliant marketers, and it's all different skill set.
You tell me how to make that happen, and I'll make some reach outs on my end.
Jared at Red's Best. I'm easy to find. JARED at redsbest.com.
Thanks, Jared.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
We can bring the boat in, and then the kids can walk around the boat and see what it takes to harvest the fish to when it goes up to Jared, where it goes from there.
Yeah. So Doug, what did you see happen? I know what I saw, but like, what was the impact of all the work we did for dogfish on the market for dogfish?
Tremendous. So
remember the early goal?
Yeah. So we were so I'm just going to get right to the point of my friend that got hired by National Marine Fisheries to see what we were doing with dogfish. So this was like a Washington, D.C. level. And he called me, Josh Weisman.
Yep.
And he called me and he says, do you want to know what you guys did with dogfish? You actually withheld 30% of the overall volume that used to just get shipped overseas here to America because of directly what you and Jared were doing. That is a tremendous number.
Yeah.
Because before it was 100% shipped. We withheld 30%, and we're talking millions of pounds, all because of what we did.
To the boat price, right? I mean, in our early days, it was. I'll share it as percents, but I mean, our early goals were to get a 10% bump in price, and we got that initially, and now it's. I mean, we're up 60. We're up 39%. Next from where we started.
Yep,
that's higher landing limits.
And it had nothing to do except education. We were educating people. People didn't know, and that's the biggest thing is people need to be educated. And that's we have direct results, direct statistics of what we created. And it's just
does anybody have any thoughts, or like does it like, did I explain the story well, how like it went from dogfish to haddock fish sticks, and like it was this really interesting thing to live through. And in fact, I was on a call. It was so weird. So we did all this, Doug. I don't even know if I can't remember if I told you this, but so I was on a call, a large buying group, not in Massachusetts. Good people. I've done work with them. Like all this work we did, we're not taking all the credit for it. A lot of people, but like, like Google like dogfish promotion, you're gonna see Doug's face, right? Like, so a different company was selling a different value-added dogfish. Not to their own horn. Red's Best, and through like the fleet that Doug's part of, like we do what, Doug, like between a third and 2/3 of all the dogfish in the entire United States is coming through our, right? So it's important to us. So like, even if we're not getting the sale, we wanted people to be eating dogfish. So these people came to Jamie and I. Jamie's my colleague who, if you want to buy fish, we'll connect you to him. But like, they came to us and they were like, Doug, I can't remember if I told this, but this happened recently. And they're like, our supplier can't get us this value-added dogfish item. And so they came to us to ask for it, which is nice. And I was like, look, I'm not trying to like step on their toes. I was like, but we can do these haddock sticks, or like, we have these sort of value-added skate items that we're playing with, just last year was like a really bad year for skate. And they're like, no, we need dogfish. It's like the main on, and they were like giving us, and I'm not trying to like bag on them because it was like, this is a sign of success, but they were like regurgitating language that like, it was like a snowball that we pushed down the hill and then got hit in the head with it, like at the bottom of the hill. It was this really odd thing. We had this great conversation that led to this, like, you know, they weren't like, no, I need your dogfish. Like they got it at the end of the conversation. We had this big conference call about like them telling us what we like told them to say 6 years ago. So I hope that doesn't come across as arrogant. I think that's just a sign of success. And like, it was like this cool thing. And we're, you know, they were bright enough to like understand how it had come full circle. But that was just this really interesting thing that happened to me recently that I wanted to share. Doug, did I tell you about that? It's not funny.
Yeah, actually, they reached out to me too first.
Right. So,
yeah.
but good. I mean, that's a success. And it's like, you know, it's, believe it or not, the seafood industry is not this like ultra, I always thought from the outside looking in, I thought it was just this ruthless, like ultra competitive thing. And we're like, yeah, you know, it's competitive, but like it's such a hard industry that generally, like, I guess everybody shares each other's pain, or like, you know, we weren't like, oh, we need to steal this business. It's just like, all right, let's just evolve the conversation, right? And on that note, it's like I don't like Red's Best is not a reaction to something that was wrong. We're just like in a place in time where we have supercomputers in our pockets and we have like unique technology and like evolving rules of how we regulate the ocean. So, you know, I hope what we're doing seems, my dream is that it like seems revolutionary now and seems like archaic 20 years from now, because like the kids that you guys are feeding make me look dumb. I think I'd be happy.
Jared, can you talk a little bit about the product development process? Like, how'd you come up with the nugget or the fish stick, or you mentioned skate, or like, what's next? And how do you decide, other than supply, like who's making these recipes and these products?
It's a good question. Like a lot of stuff we do, we just sort of like, it's like, seemed like a good idea at the time kind of thing. I can't say we're like culinary geniuses. We work with a really good co-packer who has a good expertise in like breading the product for us. So that was really helpful. And that just, you know, came from like these like really deep industry relationships we built just from like being a part of it for a long time. You know, the item, what's weird, and like, I want to hear what Doug has to say. She spends a lot more time on the water than I do, but you know, what's cool, what's so compelling about the oceans is that it's not predictable. So even like experienced, like really great fishermen like Doug, like don't know what they're going to catch this year. I don't know. Sorry, Doug. Like that's been my experience, you know? I mean, you know, and that's something against him. I think that's the draw. That's why, like, you know, we're all, I think there's something inside of all of us that's drawn to this. So what the next item is going to be, I don't know. I mean, a year ago right now, I was drowning in skate. The fishermen were catching a lot. I was losing sleep every night because you know, like there was too much skate and I didn't have a great market for it. Now things have switched, and that's in 1 year time. Obviously, global supply chains are crazy right now, but that can happen in 1 year. So, Doug, that's a question to you. Like, can you predict what the next, you know, right now is a weird point in time where for everything from tires to seafood, it's like there's more demand than supply, but like that'll change. I mean, Doug, what's next? Or give me top five. Give me top five species that might.
The allure to the ocean for me is every day I don't know what's going to happen. So you take the year prior that you weren't sleeping because you had millions of pounds of skate wing. That was a great fishing year. Last year, we got inundated with small makos that were eating our gear. So there was a low supply of skates. It just sort of balances itself out. I think the next big boom is going to be slime eels.
Oh, how are you going to say eels?
No, I don't even want to touch
Sorry.
those. But haddock, it's just, as far as the most overabundant, you can walk from here to Canada on it, haddock. Haddock is just, there is so much haddock in the ocean. That's what we really need to focus on. Haddock, dogs, skates, you know, those are pretty much the three overabundant, underutilized species.
I would add
You know.
maybe fighting.
Yeah, white. Oh yeah, well, white and the mackerel.
What?
You know, that's an overabundant. We have quite a bit of that, and that's a really good fish too.
And I can tell you, because I'm like a hobbyist fisherman, but I now have friends that people are real fishermen. But you know, just hanging out with the older guys in Chatham. I mean, Doug, like if you go out of Chatham, drop a hook down, you have a mackerel. At least the last couple of years, anyway.
Yep.
So I mean, the mackerel are so thick, but like Ernie and some guys were telling me, like, used to be hard to find mackerel for tuna bait.
Yeah, because you had such a predator with the codfish and all the other things. Well, those predators have dwindled down. So now, you know, like the ocean is never like, it's always like this. So now you have, you know, the forage fish are really flourishing, which is, hopefully it will rebound itself like this, because there's a lot of, you know, forage fish that other things, you know, like that we really love will grow again and be overabundant. But, you know, that also gets into management, and that's a whole nother black subject. Management's not
like, oh, I mean, I fish out of Boston Harbor. I'm from Boston. I fish out of Boston all the time. More often than not, I'll catch mackerel and use it as bait for stripers, because I just want to catch a striper for fun. But like more often than not, the mackerel and just let the striper go.
Yep.
True. They're small. You know, one or two, plenty for me, especially if I'm eating alone. I mean,
it's super good for you.
Yeah.
And smoked mackerel is just unbelievable. I mean, it is just, there's nothing compared to it. It's so tasty. But then it's high fat. It's very high in the, what is it, omega-3, Jared? Same thing tuna has. It's the fat, but it's super good for you.
I know. I don't know if any of the educators on the call have thoughts on this, but just from personal experience, I find that there's a lot of talk about like the physical health benefits of eating seafood. I really believe in the mental health benefits of eating seafood.
Yes.
From personal experience, not from reading, just from personal experience. So I don't know if anybody has comments on that, but I really believe in that. I see some nodding.
Yeah, you know,
feel free to chime in. I know that you know a lot about that too.
When I got out of the military, I had you know, I jumped out of airplanes for 8 years. Was an airborne ranger, and I had tremendous problems with arthritis, blown knees. I'd had knee surgeries and that, and I started eating a lot of mackerel. And believe it or not, it actually helped with my arthritic problem and nerve damage that I had. So I'm constantly eating mackerel now.
Yeah, I can just add, it's a total brain food. It, you know, helps your cognitive function. It helps with like depression and anxiety. I think it has, you know, beyond like healthy bones, healthy brain, I mean, healthy heart, it does a lot of good things for your brain too.
We have time maybe for one other question before we wrap up. Any final thoughts for Doug or Jared? Yeah, Sophie, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question, and you sort of touched on. I have a lot of questions actually, but there's just time for one. How can we, like, if we want to get a good price back to the boat and back to the fishermen, how do we square that with you know, keeping this wonderful, abundant protein source accessible to, you know, everybody and not just high earners?
Yeah, Well, it's, a couple pennies on dogfish. It doesn't have to be by just harvesting halibut. I think the simplest answer, though, just like from a straight like economics perspective, is be flexible in your consumption. If everybody was more flexible from, the white tablecloth restaurants, down through all the restaurants, institutional food service, everything, if everybody was just a little bit more flexibility, it would like grease the wheels of the supply chain to operate smoother. And by eliminating all that like waste and sort of risk premium that's factored into everything we do, it'll have an absolute impact.
Great.
Can I ask a follow-up? Because you guys also talked about this too. And we do a lot of work trying to do similar things with getting more underloved species onto people's plates, and flexibility is a huge component of that. And you spoke a little bit, and Doug, you talked about this, that education plays a huge role in that. But when you're trying to educate sort of like the general population, what do you think is the most successful way, or what's the biggest obstacle that needs to be overcome?
For the older generation, they're stuck on the, fish is caught, and it's stuff like that. But for the education, when I've done farm to schools or I've done events in Boston, that is having the product there and showing the people the actual fish, letting them handling it, educate them about it, and then all of a sudden they walk away going, I'm going to try that. That to me, and actually going to the schools and bringing the fish there and having the kids come and touch it and look at it and eat it for lunch, that right there is priceless to me. That has been the best time I've ever had.
That's a good answer. And that's it. You got to bring Doug or bring a fisherman. Like, everybody thinks commercial fishermen are cool, not just me, So like when you connect it to the person, right? Like, the storytelling and sharing the stories about Doug and the men and women on the docks, right? If you go out to eat with a commercial fisherman, you're not even going to look at the menu. You're just going to ask them, what to eat. You're not even going to listen to the, you're just going to eat it and enjoy it. And I think making that connection to the real people, that helps eliminate any like, oh, that's this or that, just it falls right away. I also think, Sophie, it's a very good question. Maybe other people can even chime in. I also think it's really intuitive. And Doug's right. Like, there's this older generation that's, refuses to, have an open mind about this. Some of them, but like, it's really intuitive to the younger people, the younger generation. So it's been easier than I've thought. We've had a lot of success.
Thank you. Yeah, and I guess it makes sense that you're presenting to a farm to school conference if, the most effective way is targeting a younger audience.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
That's our hope for the ocean, because we never managed it properly many of years ago, and we need to think outside the box now. And the younger generation is our hope, and that's why it's so crucial and imperative with me and Jared that we educate the kids to start eating what the ocean provides us, not what we've always done, and eat what we want from the ocean.
Should end on that. That was great. Thank you. And I do want to shout, Doug is extraordinarily busy right now, our most fisherman area. So thank you for taking time in the middle of May.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I got to go. I'm on a seal call with Noah right now. I got to jump back on with them. Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
everyone. Really appreciate you joining this session, and hope you check out some other ones during the rest of the conference, and come on out to the Fish Pier on Friday if you're interested in seeing this in action. You can register for that on our website, massfarmerschool.org/conference. So thank you, Jared, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everyone. Oh, we do also have a really quick, like 3-question little evaluation. Just drop the link into the chat if folks don't mind doing that. We'd really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.